4 people this morning attend 7:30 in the morning. We appreciate you being here this evening. We moved this to April, and part of the reason is because a few years ago, we basically had to cancel because we had snow. And this year, we thought we would stay away from snow. Amazingly, on Saturday, you remember, I was mowing grass first in the sun, then in the rain, then in some sort of snow combo. And when I came to the first session this morning, I was feeling good because some of our high school students actually were waiting at the bus stop in 38-degree temperature with shorts on. And so I thought, okay, we don't have to cancel this year. So a huge thank you for all of you being here. It's exciting to share all the great things that are going on at Pickett City Schools. Also to give you an update on where we're at academically, program-wise, and then also financially. That's what we're going to be going through tonight. Joining me this evening, we have Jeremy Hiddle, our treasurer, and also we have some of our board members here. Clint Bostic in the back is our newest elected board member. As of January 1st, he took office. We have Bob Luby, who has been a long-term board member. We also have Steve Gregerson, who has been on the board for 3 years, I believe. And then Frank Patrizio as our other board member, who is our board president also. And Steve is serving as our vice president this year. So appreciate all of them being here. And what I want to do is start with our strategic planning process. Usually at State of the Schools, I put up the actual strategic plan. And this year, instead of doing that, because it's still the same structure, I wanted to provide the work that we have been completing over about the last year and a half, which was coming up with belief statements and looking very carefully at what our core values are at Pickett City Schools, what we believe in, what our expectations are, what we want to make sure that every employee of Pickett City Schools is aware of, and when they come on board, they know this is what we believe, and this is what's going to happen. Also for our parents and our students, these are important statements to have. And so as I finish talking about this, you can read what we believe, and it's important for you to understand this because a strategic plan is as good as how we implement. And it's as good as how much it means to us. And by adding the belief statements to our strategic planning process, we're really able to go to a different level and look very carefully at what we believe and what we want to make sure happens here from every realm. And so this was developed with input from the community, input from all of the advisory committees. Every principal throughout the district has a parent advisory committee and also a student advisory committee. This also came with input from my superintendent's executive advisory committee, and it also came with calling for input from the community. And then our collaborative leadership team throughout the district, which encompasses about 60 people, gathered several times and worked through this. We put drafts out several times to the staff and to other people, and this is what we finally came up with. Very excited about this because if you notice, it really details every aspect of Pickett City Schools, and it provides a belief for every aspect of Pickett City Schools. And so it's one that we are engaging in our strategic planning process as of March of this year. We do that every year. We bring it out. We look carefully at it. We review it. We send a ask for input. And we're in the process of just getting that review as of this month in April. Our goal is by the time we get to the end of June, the Board of Education approves the new strategic plan, which will take us from the year 2016-17 school year all the way through the 17-18, 18-19 school year. And so we are starting to go into ankle-deep waters with strategic planning and continuing. Strategic planning is important because it guides everything that we do here. The strategic plan, belief statements, every teacher writes goals for the year, and they'll be doing that in August. Those goals are developed from the strategic plan. Every building has building goals, which are developed from the strategic plan. And so when you actually look at the written document of the strategic plan, If we're doing something, it should be on that document in some way or the other. And so that's the process we've entered into. This is a wonderful addition to our process that we wanted to share with you. Leadership is extremely important, and I mentioned we have several of our board members here. The other thing that has been enjoyable with the Board of Education, and you can see through the pictures on the outside, we are now hosting all of our board meetings at buildings, and the students and the staff at the building that is hosting provides several different examples of things that are going on that they want to highlight for the building, which you're seeing in some of these pictures. Also, the Board of Education, I mentioned the collaborative leadership team, and we have been spending time with work sessions. That bottom picture is a great example of the work session where we were dealing with certain things that we want to get input from parents. So there are parent reps there are staff member reps, and also board members and the administrative team together looking at different aspects of Pickle City Schools. The other thing is just recognition, and one fun thing that the board gets to do is recognize and highlight great things that's happening with staff members and great things that's happening with our students. So I appreciate their efforts and their involvement with doing all of that. Also, they have been involved with touring through buildings. We're looking at our great facilities, and this is a wonderful example of our great facilities, and you can see we are taking every effort possible to continue to make sure these buildings stay new. They're also, when we're doing building tours, just observing the things that are going on in our classrooms, looking at how our students are engaged, looking at the strategies that our teachers are using, looking at the resources that they're using, and this all encompasses their role as being the liaison between the community and also all the things happening here at Pickle City Schools. So a lot of work going on, and we appreciate that. I will note that I try to stretch the picture of all of us as much as possible to make us tall, thin, and looking really good there. Two data points that I'd like to really hone in on. The ACT, which is a college entrance exam. Basically, this shows you on the left-hand side our average, and this is for the 2014-15 school year, and the average was 21.9. If you look at the Greater Western Ohio Conference, which basically goes from Sydney down to Lebanon, to the south, and then on the eastern side, Springfield, basically over to Trotwood, and you're including Centerville, Miamisburg, Xenia, Fairborn, all the major sized schools are in this league. This is the average that you see, which is a 22.1. State average is a 22, and national average is a 21. We have hovered around that national average for quite a long time. 2 years ago, we actually dipped down to a 19. The reason, because we received a grant for all our sophomores to take the ACT that year. So when you skew the number of students, every sophomore took the ACT that year. That brought our ACT scores down. And so it raised a red flag first, but then we thought we tested every one of our sophomores, which most school districts do not do that. But we had an opportunity to test, and that was a good thing for us to do. Once we got out of that year, as you see, we bounced back up to around our average, but we continue to look at a goal of raising ACT scores, raising SAT scores, and really making sure that our students are prepped and ready for college. The other major data point that is extremely important for us is really focused on the third grade reading guarantee, which is the chart on the right-hand side. In Ohio, with Ohio Revised Code, we have a third grade reading guarantee, which means Pickle City Schools is responsible for making sure that every one of our third graders, before they move on to fourth grade, they're reading on grade level. That's across the state. And so if you look at this, in the past 2 years, we have been very successful. During the school year or both summers, we've had intervention programs and summer schooling for any of our students that were not up to grade level, that we use the summer to bring them up to grade level. They have to pass a test, and most of you have probably read about all the testing in Ohio, and there was an article in the paper this morning about the number of hours spent It has been reduced this year, but for our third graders, they have to pass a test in order to move on to the fourth grade. And that test is a reading test. And if they don't pass it, we have to provide intervention. If we can't get them to the growth of where they need to be over the summer, then we have to continue working with them to get them up to speed in the fourth grade or in the third grade, depending upon the child. And so we've been very successful. And this chart is a very small representation of the amount of work that goes into the third grade reading guarantee. A huge compliment to our staff because they work very diligently to analyze, to work with students on a one-to-one basis to provide additional support if they need to. So if you look at our pre-K, preschool through third grade staff, they're doing a phenomenal job of being able to get our students on par and passing that third grade reading test. So we're very appreciative of the work going on there. We have done a lot over the past 3 years. When the state started talking about raising the standards, raising the bar, raising expectations, about 5 years ago, we had a prediction of where we potentially would be. And we started implementing programming, we started implementing staff development, we started implementing different resources that were going to allow for us to meet those higher standards. If you look at this very carefully, starting with programming, the first one is one that everyone looks at and says, Rick, we've been doing all day, every day kindergarten. Not for every student. This is the first year because we now have the space to offer all day, every day kindergarten. And so that is something that we're very proud of because that has been on our list for about a decade to provide that for every student. We had a lot of it that we were utilizing to allow for students to participate in all day. So even last year, we had some students in half-day classes. Speaking of the weather, you may all take a look. This is what I did in my classroom. Go ahead and take a look. I was an earth science teacher, so you need to take a look at it because it's a great example of weather and meteorology stuff. So, but when we look at the facilities have been phenomenal in allowing us to do things that we weren't able to do before. And Albany Kindergarten is a great example of that. Some of the other things, and I'm not going to go through every one because you can read those. Number 3, I do want to point out, and we talked about last year at this time, we were awarded a $2.1 million straight aid grant, a very competitive grant across the state of Ohio. The great thing is we were able to work with Milton Union School System and also Franklin Grove System, and the 3 districts brought that grant in. That is an early literacy grant that supplies Chromebook laptops to every one of our current kindergarten and first grade students. They have one at home. They also have one in their classroom. The great thing about that is we now are in some homes that we have never been in before. And by that I don't mean physically we're not there, but that Chromebook with specialized early literacy programming that we worked with the 2 other districts and also with Think TV, we basically now are in homes and touching students, working with parents that we've never been able to do before. That's an exciting project and a great example of what we can do with technology. The good news, a few months ago we announced we went after a second round grant with the same 2 other districts. They changed the rules a little bit. Everything had to be under $1 million, and so we went for an $890,000 grant. We received it, and so we are looking at developing the programming next year, and then the following school year, we will do the same thing with all of our 2nd grade and 3rd grade students. And so they'll have those laptops that will go home. We've had great success. I know there have been some questions about you're sending laptops with kindergarten, 1st grade students home. We have had very small problems with that. Parents and grandparents and guardians have been very receptive. They appreciate the fact that we respect them. We do training with all of them. We had great turnout and participation with the training, but it's been a wonderful experience of being able to do that. So great success for that. The other thing is our partner is Public TV. Think TV out of Dayton. Also Boston got involved because The programming that we designed with the other two districts is now a national program through PBS, and other school districts across the country are using that. We're looking at doing the same thing with second and third grade. That is a compliment to our staff members who helped work in a field with public television and develop programming, and that in itself is great professional development. Some other things, Read 180 is number 5 up here. Read 180 is again, using technology for today's technology-savvy kids. And it's helping to increase reading skills. We looked carefully at, we needed to have a stopgap someplace to make sure that our junior high students were at the level they needed to be. That is a very individualized program. Again, I appreciate the staff who took that on. It is new this year, very successful with raising reading capabilities and getting our students up to where they need with the students who are having problems with reading. And it's something we're looking at expanding upon next year. If you look at the algebra block, number 7, again, another initial program this year, and very successful so far with students that when we sat down and talked with them, basically found out that somewhere in 6th, 7th, 8th grade, they got turned off on math. And they needed some very one-to-one, very dedicated time from teaching staff in small groups. And so that's what we have happening in algebra block. Actually, 2 classrooms in high school on the 2nd floor across the hallway from one another. Teachers rotate in and out, and also students are rotating in and out and working on a very individual basis. Great program, fun to watch, and again, something we're looking at expanding. The other things you can read about, number 10, Community Connectors is one that I encourage you to look at potentially working with yourselves. A grant that we received from the state through working with the Juvenile Fund, with the police department, and also working with churches in the local area. And that program right now has supplied 18 mentors for 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th graders. There is nothing better than we can do beyond what our staff does than to provide a quality role model 1 day a week for 1 hour a week that is dedicated to one student. It provides some of our students who are at risk, who don't always have the support they need, that individual. They are trained through Kids Hope USA, and it is a great program that we have been very excited, and again, love to see that expand tremendously. I share with a couple people, I think all kids could benefit from having an adult once a week come in and work with them and just pay attention to them. So something that we'll continue, and again, I encourage all of you to look at. Staffing-wise, this year we plan for additional staffing, and I'm going to say additional by reworking our budget. With the combination of all the buildings, about 4 years ago, we did some staff transitioning, and we planned for some retirements. And as folks retired, and we were able to look carefully at staffing, we were able to add particular programming to it. And this gives you an idea. We switched to a new scheduling model called the candidate scheduling model. We worked on that for 3 years to implement it this year. And basically, the goal of that model is to really divide students so that when a regular teacher is working with students, they're working in smaller groups. And so we added instructional aides, as you can see the number there. We also have looked at where else do we need to have good size one-to-one or small group assets for our students. And you can see how we've been able to do that by adding kindergarten teachers, 1 at Spring Creek, 1 at Washington. We now have a principal and an assistant principal in every building. And guidance counselors, we now have 1 for every building. And so you can see how we are providing student support through the reworking of the budget, the reworking of staff, and being able to plan for the opening this year. And that's pretty much what's come through. Number 9 is something that we as a school district have had to address. Mental health across the state of Ohio, funding was cut at the state level, which affected all of the facilities across the state. In the Dayton region, Miami Valley, we had Twin Valley Mental Health, which was closed because of lack of funding. That caused a huge hole for families and for students to have mental health support. And so we have partnered with Good Samaritan Health to provide a mental health specialist to help with students and also help with families. And there's a variety of things that that particular individual does, but a great asset to our district. Professional development, a huge list. When you do everything we did with programming, and when you switch things with staff, you need to make sure that you're providing quality staff development. And this is something that we continue looking at. How are we carrying it over to next year? How are we carrying it over to 3 years from now, 5 years from now? And so you see all the different things we've done. We had collaborative leadership. We still continue that, but we merged it with the Ohio improvement process, which is something that a lot of districts across the state have been involved with. It has been a good merge because it's provided some more structure to what we were doing here. Teachers are meeting on a regular basis, that's sort of the teacher-based teams, to analyze data, to look at classroom instruction, and also to derive what they're doing in their classroom based upon data. And then some of the other things go along with some of the program we talked about. One of the fun things that technology has been helping with is we are moving into the Google realm of being a Google district with Google Docs, Google Forms, and all kinds of things within the Google Classroom. Parents and community, some new things that we've been working on. Parenting classes, and this has been with the help of some of our resources with Samaritan Health. We are offering, there's just a need across the state, across the country, with folks who are frustrated with what do I do as a parent and how can I be helped. And I think if any of you are a parent, we've all felt that at some time or another. Just providing some parenting classes this spring, and that's going to be occurring. Attendance team is something that we built. Every building has one this year, and that is to really make sure that our parents understand their responsibility to make sure that their child is coming to school on a regular basis. And so those teams have been very connected with a local attorney, if we need to go that route. They've been very connected to the court system, if we need to go that route, and making sure that our students are here. We can't help them grow in their skills if they're not here. And so this has been a direct work with attendance teams at each building level working with parents. We talked about straight A grant, community connectors. One of the fun things in this building in December, we held a senior citizens breakfast. Had a great time with a very large number of senior citizens, with the varsity basketball team helping to serve and connecting our students with the senior citizens and also letting them use our facilities. This one is supposed to be so you can't read it. If you think about everything I talked about, it basically is reliant upon technology. And there have been huge upgrades in technology in our 3 new buildings, but also there have been upgrades at the high school and the junior high, and able to pull off everything we're doing. And if you read this, and if you want a hard copy of this, I can provide it for you, but many things, and our tech director, Eric Heinrich, is standing back here, a phenomenal effort, and it has been done without increasing this technology staff, which has been an amazing feat. We continue to look at how can we support our teachers, how can we support programming. I joke, because Eric knows everything with technology, I know almost zero. We went to a state training together, and I was like, when you look at the one over the picture, the wireless standard is 802.11 AC wave 2. That sounds important. It sounds very good. When I asked Eric, he says that is very important. And so all those things have a backbone to provide the opportunities for our teachers to be able to do what they do. We're also blessed with great partnerships, and over the last 9 years, we've been working diligently on our campus with Edison and also with Upper Valley Career Center. The fun things that I'll share with you tonight, Pickler Education Foundation is a foundation basically for our district. A wonderful organization that is at the point where they want to evolve to the next level. And so a few of us visited Kalamazoo, Michigan. And if you've heard of the Kalamazoo Promise, that is something that we are looking at very carefully. And I'm going to give you a teaser that this graduating class is going to be affected by something called the Piqua Promise. And there are going to be a few individuals that are going to benefit from Piqua Education Foundation looking very carefully at what else can we do to develop a culture of quality workforce, quality students that are coming out of Piqua High School that have some sort of certificate beyond a high school diploma, be it trade, be it technical, be it 2-year, be it the other things that they need on an AC or ACT score, SAT score that takes them to a 4-year college. But we're looking very carefully, and as I said, you'll hear more about Piqua Promise in the next upcoming months, and you'll hear even more when we have a graduating class talk about some things that are happening with some of them. So that's an exciting thing. Upper Valley Career Center this year, our 7th grade students and our 8th grade students, all except a handful of students. It's just a handful who are in jazz band. Most of the rest of them, though, about 95% of the population of 7th and 8th graders are participating in STEM. And that is being in partnership with Upper Valley Career Center. And that is providing a wonderful background with problem solving, a wonderful background with manufacturing processes, with engineering processes, and with critical thinking skills. And so it's one that we're very excited about. We added 7th grade last year, extremely successful, and also our students love it. And so this year we added the 8th grade component, and again, that's in partnership with the Career Center. To give you an idea, in October for Halloween, they produced a haunted room and used the whole philosophy and theories behind pneumatics to cause creatures and other project pieces to rise and scare people and to do all kinds of things. And so a wonderful thing that is helping math scores, it's helping science scores, it's helping critical thinking across the district, which is a lot of fun. Also at the high school, we added pre-engineering courses. We have a gentleman by the name of Jeremy Kettering, who is a teacher through Upper Valley Career Center. He works as an engineer at Honda and then spends time with our students and teaches them pre-engineering and engineering skills, and that's been a wonderful addition. We also have some robotic classes and some other things that we have beefed up with Upper Valley. So great partnership with them. And then we also have our students who are traditional Career Center students that spend the day at Upper Valley learning the trades and skills so that they can get those certificates in HVAC and automotive repair and everything else that we all depend upon. We also are doing coursework with Upper Valley where students might spend 2 periods with us at Piqua High School. They go to Upper Valley for a few periods, and then they go to Edison for an amount of time. And so a great partnership which leads us on to Edison State Community College. Again, a wonderful partnership that we have with them. With our students participating in College Credit Plus, which is the new program that has replaced dual enrollment across Ohio. Our partner previously was Ohio Northern. We now have switched to Wright State University for next year. If you read in the paper this week, Edison announced a wonderful partnership with Wright State University. We are linking into that partnership. And so very excited about what the future is going to look like with our partners there. So we're blessed with a wonderful facility on Winning Road with a lot of partnerships that we're working diligently with. Opportunities through great facilities. I love this one because I am a person who likes to check things off, and I've showed this for the last 4 years in State of the School. And ladies and gentlemen, please notice the schedule on the left-hand side. Everything's marked off except the last thing. And the last thing is, what are we doing with our properties? And I'll share with you our properties where we've had former buildings that we have demolished. Demolition is completely finished. They took the fences down in the past 2 weeks. They look great. And it's one of those where we are taking our time as a school district, working with the city, but looking carefully at making sure that we have good stewards of those properties if we decide not to keep them as a district. And so more to come in the future on that. But it's great to have on schedule, on budget. We finished the project, and we are in these great facilities, and they are assets to Piqua City Schools and assets to our community. The other thing we do is look at how does our district provide an economic stimulus for our community. And it's by hosting events. Chip Hare, our athletic director, is here tonight. He's responsible for overseeing a lot of these things. But if you think about it, the reason I list the number of schools is because you need to understand, when we host an event and 12 schools roll in with at least one bus, and then all the parents following them, and all the grandparents following them, think about how many people are using our restaurants, how many people are using our gas stations, how many people go shopping. Chip has a great brochure that shows all the restaurants that the Chamber helped us design. It shows the shopping that's available, and we send those to the other school districts before they come and visit. And so it's a wonderful thing. We do the athletic side, but we also do a lot of the arts. We added a marching band invitational, which had 18 schools, I believe. So think about marching bands. That's not just one bus. You're talking when Kettering pulls in, you're looking at about 6 buses with everything that comes with it. So great stimulus to our economy. And it's one where I love working with the businesses in the area because we let them know ahead of time, this is what's happening this upcoming Saturday. We host regional tournaments like Science Olympiad and Ohio History Day. Huge numbers of students coming into the community. So something that sometimes we forget that what we're doing with the economy here. This is one that I always share. It's too busy of a slide. It breaks every rule in a PowerPoint presentation that's out there. But I can't not say a huge thank you to all of our business partners and all of our organizational partners who are listed there. If I missed you, please make sure you see me. If I didn't miss you, because you're not yet a partner and you want to be, or you're part of an organization that would like to be a partner, or part of a business that would like to be a partner, please let me know and I'll let you know what we can do. We're blessed with wonderful partnerships. We have business partners that are mentoring in our classrooms. We have business partners who say, we don't want to mentor, but we want to provide a program. And so they're sponsoring. In this building is a great example. Our 5th graders go to Glen Helen Outdoor Nature Center for 4 days, 3 nights. Did I get that right? And basically, we have a business partner that helps provide funding for all the students to knock that price down, but also for students that need some financial assistance. The 8th graders have the opportunity to go to Washington, D.C., and we have a business partner that helps out with that. We have a new venture with some 7th and 8th graders going to Kelly's Island to do bird counting and snake counting, and it's a wonderful field experience. And again, that's where some of our business partners help out with that. So a lot of great opportunities that our business partners are helping with. And then we're moving to financial. And this is the exciting part because Mr. Hiddle lives for this every day. And so Jeremy Hiddle is our treasurer, and welcome him to help provide some information.
I hope to keep you all awake and not glaze your eyes over, and we're going to talk about where we're at financially. And good news is that we're doing well financially. So everything we talk about tonight is going to be positive. So that's good things. 3 things that we want to talk about tonight is there's been a shift in support for how Pickle City Schools is funded. In the past, we've been funded by 53% locally, 47% by the state of Ohio. That has shifted around, and we'll look into that. Also, the budget factors, things that are influencing our budget currently and why we're doing well financially and having carryover years and living in the black. And good news is we've completed 8 years in the black, and we're on track to finishing our 9th year in the black. And that would be 9 years out of 11 years that we finished in the black. So as a district, we're doing very well with our resources and the taxpayer support and everything, and being good stewards, which is the 3rd thing, of taxpayer dollars. So I talked about the shift in funding, and when you look at this graph, the first graph that's up there, the state now has a 52% share in the funding, and the locals share is 48%. So that has shifted, it's flip-flopped, and it's moving even greater as we move forward into next fiscal year. You'll see that shift is actually probably going to be exactly 53-47, if not 54-46. So we continue to receive more additional funding from the state, and that's due to the new biennial budget that we're running underneath. And as we look at that, that can be for some concern, just because the state's budget can change at any time. Every 2 years, it's what's new. Every 4 years, it's who's the next governor, and that's what we have coming the next go-around, is who is going to be the governor after John Kasich, and so we don't know what that's going to look like. So that leaves it unknown, and then we get to make a 5-year forecast off of something that we only know about 2 years out. So that's just something to keep an eye on. And if you look at our revenue versus expenses, this is where I got into. We have been consistently not spending more than we're bringing in and being good stewards of taxpayer dollars. So very proud of the fact that we've been able to complete 8 years and on track to being 9 years in one. Another thing to keep an eye on, and is of concern but also not concerned, but will be probably of concern, you like that? It's backwards because this is how the state works. The values that we have up here, you see how it went down. I don't know, I'm probably standing in the way, but the values were at $447 million, almost $450 million in 2007. We had the bubble burst, and now we're down to 384, almost 385 million. It's ticked back up about 10 million from 14 to 15. That's normally a bad thing because when your values go down, the money that you generate locally goes down. However, because of the new formula that was put in place that continues to change, if your values go down and you look like your mill only generates X number of dollars, then the state pays more money to you. So that's part of the reason why the state funding has gone up, is because our values have actually gone down for now. When the new governor comes in, the formula could be different, and we could wish that we were back at $448 million because we need that money back. So it's okay for today, and we're benefiting from the formula today, but a lot of districts in Ohio aren't benefiting from the formula today. And so it's just something to keep in mind. We are way down from where we used to be, and hopefully, slowly, gradually, we'll get back to where we were. And right now, it's not hurting us, but it potentially could hurt us in the future. So I'm always looking out at how are we going to weather that if something does change in the next budget. Looking at the local support, where does it come from? 2 different areas: income tax, property tax. We do gross receipts of income tax is just a little over $6 million, but what it actually brings in net receipts is $5.6 million. Property tax, we bring in about $14.5 million in property tax, and that's broken out between general fund, debt service, and permanent improvement capital improvements. So where does all this money go? And the key factor, and one of the things that goes on the report card, well, it did, and then it hasn't, and then maybe it'll go back on again in the future. If you like that, keeps going, Chip Hair. State's good at this stuff. Is where are you spending it at? On instruction, yes or no? And we're all very close, and it says 68 out of 105 of us, but most of us are within that same little bracket with a point or two difference of where are we spending our classroom instruction. And so we're continuing to get closer and closer to that 70% mark. Would be really good in the state of Ohio if we were spending 70% on instruction. Because things like food service and transportation do not count towards instructional expenses, but they still count towards expenses. Administration expenses obviously don't count towards expenses. Light bills don't count towards expenses. So all those things that you'd sit there and say you couldn't have a building without it, they still don't count towards instructional expenses. So that's when we look at that. Most people don't recognize the fact that things that we take for granted don't actually count. When you look at that percentage that's on there, that's actually in the classroom expenses that are going on. So there's also some games that treasurers have learned how to play, and I guess more ethical or learning how to play it slower than the rest of them, I guess. But there are games that you can play to try to make your percentages look better, and I'm like I said, maybe I'm slow, but I don't play the games. Operating expenses, though, you'll see per pupil, $8,961 as our per pupil expenditure, and the state average is $9,189. So we're still spending below state averages, which is a great thing for the taxpayers. And I believe that we're getting great results, and Mr. Haynes went over all of the programming that we're putting into place Great news is we're still on target to be in the black, at least for another couple years. And so the good news is, barring any unforeseen circumstances like the budget, the good news is that we continue to put the resources, I just lost my train of thought, put the resources into the classroom, put the additional staffing in the places where we need it, and we're still being able to maintain our budget where it's at. So all these changes that we have going on, we're still able to make this happen and still not have to come back to taxpayers and ask for any money. So that's a good thing. Things that are impacting our budget right now. So I talked a little bit about the state annual budget, biennial budget. That's a big factor, again, with the formula and how it's producing more money to the district. The next thing is the negotiated agreement, and then how are we operating efficiently? So the budget, we're at a cap. So the state says we need about $17.4 million to operate, and they think that giving us about $14.7 million to operate makes sense. It's good math, right? You need this much, but we're only going to pay you this much. So we're going to continue to receive more money as we move along through that process. And so eventually we will be on the formula. We won't see any more money if the formula stays the way it is. So again, that's all those hypotheticals, you know. But as we come off the cap and we're on the formula, our enrollment's going to matter more. Our attendance is going to matter more. Because all those factors come into play with special ed students. There's a whole list. There's about 357 factors that come into play about how much money we receive. So right now being at the cap is great because we sort of know exactly how much money is going to come every year. The current budget has provided additional revenue. That's why we can project pretty easily how much we're getting every year going forward. And then again, as I had said, the future state of Ohio biennial budget is unknown. We'll see how that goes. Who knows who the new governor will be. I have birdies telling me it's going to be Mike DeWine. We'll see. Just a heads up. You didn't know that. The negotiated agreement. Positive relations. We have a great relationship going on with our membership currently. I think that speaks volumes to the work that all the administrative staff does with our membership. They're very supportive. The ability to talk to them about the insurance plan. We've got a great wellness committee going on right now. And those things, especially dealing with the insurance, has made it to where we've gotten 4 plans in place. We used to have a PPO plan or a Cadillac tax plan, which is we would have to actually pay more money because you have a Cadillac tax that's coming along down the pipe and it's going to move back. Those are where you're just going to pay the copay and everything else is covered. To an alternate PPO, to an HSA plan, to a bronze level plan, which is a bare minimum plan. The HSA plan, we had 96% participation rate in our HSA plan when we switched over to that. And in 2016, we were able to get a 0% increase on our health insurance premiums. In 2015, we operated at a 75% loss ratio, which is excellent for insurance standards because normally if you're over an 80%, they want to give you an increase. So you try to stay below 80% and hope that you're not going to see an increase. So our hope is if we continue that projection through mid-2016, we shouldn't see an increase again going into next year, but we'll see how things go. Anthem doesn't like giving out zeros, so we'll keep our fingers crossed and see how it goes. But being able to hold our health insurance at 0% has helped our budget immensely because that's one of the biggest, largest areas of growth that we had in our previous years. And so that was a big unknown factor when you were getting things like an 8, 10, 12% increase, and then you had to try to whittle them down from there. So that has helped us get some control under our budget. Award-winning stewards of your money. And so I got to put this slide up here. We've got some more awards coming in, and there's another one on the way. And I think many of you probably seen the articles, but we produced a capper, and we went through our audits, and we've got a clean audit award from the Auditor of State's office. Our capper is winning awards. And what does that mean? And what are we looking for when I say we look for savings? And we talk about being good stewards of money, and what are the results? So The one thing that we talked about a little bit is the taxpayer bill of rights. And what does that mean? Is that we have made a commitment to the taxpayers of Piqua City Schools that we are going to make sure that we're spending money on instruction and that we're going to be transparent about what we're doing. So when we have these meetings or when you call my office and ask questions, I'm glad to answer them. So, I mean, the idea is to be thorough and transparent and make sure that we're getting the best deal and the biggest bang for the buck for our taxpayers. We're always looking for savings, and there was a lot of examples this morning in the crowd this morning because between the bank, the insurance, who else was there this morning? Oh, the copy machines. We have all kinds of great examples of ways that we save money, but we do RFPs, so we go out and we get quotes, we ask for proposals, we negotiate on final costs for purchases. One time, just recently, I turned around, I got a requisition that came in for some software purchases, licenses, and I asked Rob Messick, one of our curriculum directors, I said, hey, did you ask him for some, any more discount off of that? And I said, why don't you go back and offer him this? And we saved $6,600 because he went back and asked one more time, is that your best and final price? Will you take this? So there was $6,600 that we saved just by calling and asking one more time. So doing things like that to continue to try to make sure that we're getting the best price, but still getting the right stuff for our children. So using new technologies to improve efficiencies. There's an example in my office of where we've tried to reduce paper. We're doing a lot more scanning, so an invoice comes in, we attach it to a purchase order, we pay the check off of there, so we're not printing out all the paper. And then now when the auditor comes in and says, hey, I need to see check number 5748, you type that number in and you can pull that whole little packet up and they can see all the information there, and it's at their fingertips. We don't lose checks anymore, but also it saves time and it saves paper, and so it's become more efficient. So just looking for those kinds of things where you can become a little bit more efficient and save a little bit of paper and save a little bit of everyone's time. So, and then incentivizing our staff to be more efficient. We do a lot of that. We have an incentive to be more efficient. If we end the year in the black and we add days to our carryover, we put out information as far as shutting lights off, although in our new buildings, all that stuff is done automatically, so that's good news. All the heating and air conditioning is now controlled electronically. So some of those things are automatically being done for us. And I can tell you that as we complete a whole year being in our buildings, then I'll put a report together to show the taxpayers how much money did it cost us operating for electric and natural gas in our old buildings versus our new buildings. And so that we can see sort of the differences that are going on there, because there are some savings in that. And in the natural gas land, it's been pretty significant this winter, although it's been fairly mild. It has been pretty significant. So we'll see how that turns out. Some other recent savings I've discussed a little bit. Zero change in health insurance premiums. We saved over $100,000 switching insurances for property insurance. And one of the other ones is Eric, our technology director, put out an RFP to get new copy machines and printers. We actually saved money and ended up with more equipment using the same company we used for the prior 5 years. So we got more equipment, paid less money, and still use the same company. So it was sort of amazing. And we got better machines. I think we ended up with better machines. So in the end of the day, that was a good one that we were able to make happen. So just some last comments. We appreciate the continued support of the community. We couldn't do it without community support. Obviously, we're in these facilities, and that's a big testament to how the community has supported the district. We'll continue to monitor changes on the district finances, again, looking at the budget and the governor's future budgets, and we'll continue to be great stewards of taxpayer dollars, because rest assured, I look for every nickel that we can possibly save. I do get told that I'm a little bit tight at times. Isn't that right, Mr. Patrizio?
That's bad coming from me.
On the last slide, just a reminder of what Piqua City Schools is all about, and also the wonderful success because of the work of our staff, the work of the community, the commitment to education here in Piqua. we have some great successes. And when you look at the bottom right-hand corner, that's our high school science Olympiad team. Lots of medals hanging around those necks, but also a very young team. Many freshmen, many sophomore. And I mention that because at the regional tournament, which we hosted, they just missed moving on to state. Usually they do, but I put that picture in there because it's a reminder of there's work to be done. And any time you have a well-medaled team, but you barely miss it, it's exciting because they're already prepping for next year. The picture above them, a group of students that just at our last work session for the Board of Education, that class, which is a high school advanced placement class, spent time researching our community and the members of our community, because the task before them was to look at potential candidates that our Piqua High School Commons would be named after. And they narrowed it down to 4. Did presentations on each of the 4 for the diversity committee for the districts and also for the Board of Education. And from their work, our Commons is going to be named after one of our community members. And it's a commitment to making sure that we are listening to student voice. And we are committed to making sure that their work and effort is going into improving Piqua City schools. The picture in the middle at the bottom, it's wonderful to be able to claim that we have a state champion. And Ike Karn won the Division II 1-meter diving, as you can see there. That's a phenomenal thing that many districts can't claim. On the left-hand bottom, a great example of a partnership with Rotary. We're blessed with Rotary, we're blessed with Kiwanis, we're blessed with Optimist, and other service organizations. And those are our students that prepared speeches and entered into the Rotary Speech Contest. And again, another example of the skills and talents that you don't always hear about. And we appreciate the efforts on all those students. The picture above that is of our show choir, and just a reminder of the long traditions that we have here in Piqua of success, because year after year, that organization is representing Piqua, representing Ohio across competitions throughout the Midwest, and they do a phenomenal job. The picture in the middle at the top is our marching band, and for the first time in many years, they qualified for state. And we're very successful, and it was just announced that they qualified for Grand Nationals in Indianapolis to perform and compete. I believe it's in November of 2016. The top right, I like to look at because that is a reminder of we're blessed to be in the United States of America with that flag. Across the right-hand top on the walls of Gardner Gymnasium are all the successes of our students. And then our community gathered for graduation this past year in Gardner Gymnasium. And it was a wonderful experience. We were in Gardner Gymnasium because it was raining earlier in the morning. Usually we're at Alexander Stadium. The thing I can share with you is back in 1999-2000, which is I was a curriculum director here. I remember a graduation in Gardner Gymnasium, and it was extremely hot. And I left dripping, like I think everyone else who attended. Gardner Gymnasium is now air conditioned, and it's a prime example of we can gather our community, we can celebrate our graduates. And on the left-hand side is that celebration. Here are our graduates from the class of 2015, and it's a reminder again of why we're here, why we do what we do. We need to hold up education as a wonderful asset that every student and every child here in the Piqua community deserves and needs to help give back to the community once they graduate. Also, a huge thank you to all of our staff members who have made all the things on that slide possible with great coaching, great teaching, great sharing of their talents and assets with our students. And so it's a wonderful thing to look at. I'd like to thank all of you for coming tonight. On behalf of all of the staff members, all the students at Piqua City Schools, we are right around 3,600 students and just under 400 staff members. It's a phenomenal opportunity to be able to share with you tonight where we're at as a school district, and it's a good place. It's a very good place, and it's because of the people, it's because of the community and the support. And a huge thank you for coming tonight. Jeremy and I will be around for questions if you have individual questions. And again, thank you for coming, and appreciate your attendance this evening. So thank you very much.